Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So here's another deck profile for you guys today. This time it's on Dark Worlds. So I apologize for the delay. It's just been kind of crazy these last couple of days. And I meant to upload this yesterday, but I fell asleep like super early and yeah, I was just like out of it. But anyway, yeah, Dark Worlds is like one of my favorite decks, especially because like it can do so many cool explosive things. And yeah, this deck can be kind of cancerous too because like it's capable of hand ripping. And now that we have cards like Mulcharmy Fuels, there is a possibility where you can in fact deck out your opponent, but it all depends on the right combination of cards and how many times you're able to kind of go into your extra deck. Not to mention, you also have to be mindful of certain hand traps like Nibiru. You also have to watch out for Bestials. Drone Lockbird is actually our biggest threat because like if we get hit with the Drone Lockbird, our combo's done. But yeah, I do have means to kind of like answer those, and that's just what I wanted to share with you guys today. So now, just to clarify, the main win con is essentially hand ripping out of your opponent's hand, just so you can Knightmare Gryphon lock. So just to clarify what the main deal with Dark World is. But anyway, let's not keep you guys waiting any longer. So starting off with the main deck, as I mentioned, 42 cards. Starting off with 3 copies of Rainbow. This is probably the best card in the deck simply because if it's discarded, you can add any level 5 or higher Dark World monster. And if it's discarded by an opponent's card effect, you can special summon 1 level 4 or lower Dark World monster from your deck or grave to either field. And again, that can be pretty relevant considering that we do have ways to cheese out the opponent's effect deal. So, but anyway, I'll get into that momentarily. Moving on, 2 copies of Grapha. Another great card because it's not once per turn. Oh, and one thing I forgot to mention, these both have a summoning condition from the graveyard, so basically helps you play around Abyss Dweller because it's not technically an activated effect. So yeah, for Rainbow, you bounce back any level 7 or higher, or level 7 or lower Dark World monster to special summon it. And Grapha bounces back any Dark World monster to special summon itself from the grave. But with Grapha, if it's discarded, you get to pop a card. And yeah, not much more to say about that. Next up, 3 copies of Snow. If it's discarded, you can search out any Dark World card from your deck to your hand. So we got several targets. And this can include spells and traps as well, so just bear that in mind. 3 copies of Genta. This is basically terraforming for the deck. You just pitch this from your hand to add 1 Gates of the Dark World. And Gates just has excellent synergy with this card because this does have an effect where if it's banished, you can special summon this card back from your banish pile once per turn though. The only thing that's not once per turn is its ability to search out the gates, so definitely pretty relevant from there. Next up, 2 copies of Silvva. As I mentioned, this card basically is one of our enablers for the win con. If it's discarded, it special summons itself, and if it's discarded by an opponent's card effect, they have to place 2 cards from their hand to the bottom of their deck. And of course, it can be in any order, but I mean, not that it matters, because like, again, we're basically trying to rip out our opponent's entire hand from the start. Moving on, 1 copy of Ceruli. If it's discarded, it special summons itself to your opponent's side of the field, and then its effect will activate, forcing me to discard a card. And this is why this card is so cracked, because like it forces me to pitch Silvva, and then from there, yeah, you already know where this is going. And we do have ways to cycle back Ceruli, so yeah, like that way we can basically just keep spamming the hell out of it. Next up, 1 copy of Salamander Catalyzer. Pretty good extender. Reveal this plus 1 other feat, and you special summon 1 or the other and then discard the other, and this will in fact trigger Dark World cards. So yeah, it's still pretty good. 1 Zephyros, just in case if I need to bounce something back, and plus it is an extender as well. So yeah, that's pretty good. For the danger package, 2 Bigfoot, 2 Nessie, running a lot of 2-ofs in fact, 2 Mothman, 1 Thunderbird. I love it and hate it at the same time because like I hate it when it gets discarded, but I love it when it gets summoned because it is a level 8 monster, and we do have several rank gates to work with, so that's pretty relevant as well. But I mean, for like against back row decks, that's when the discarding is actually good. And then for the remaining ones, 1 Chupacabra. It's a Fiend, which is pretty funny. 1 Jackalope and 1 Tsuchinoko. So all fantastic cards in their own right. No hand traps, simply because, we are on dangers, and yeah, hand traps aren't exactly good with that. But anyway, moving forward, playing 3 copies of Gates of Dark World. This card's pretty crazy because it's not a hard once per turn. So once per turn, you can banish one fiend type monster from your graveyard and then discard a fiend and then draw one card. And again, considering that we are on Dark Worlds, this does trigger their effects just to get some additional value. And that's the thing about Dark Worlds. Like, it's all about obtaining a lot of value. 3 copies of Allure Darkness. I was considering Drag Down into the Grave, I think is what the card's called. But I think I like Allure just a little bit better. 2 copies of Thrust. We do have a lot of normal spells, so there's definitely something to work with. I was going to play 3, but there have been instances where I open up with 1 too many copies, and yeah, that can be kind of bad. Still on 1 talent at least. So 1 Called By, and then for the other 1 Dark World Archives. It's a draw 2 basically. 1 Accession. This is basically the fusion spell. 1 Puppetry. It's 3/1 DD Crow, so can't go wrong with that. Dark Corridor, even though it is part of the Dark World archetype, it's not a Dark World card, so sadly it's not searchable outside of just Triple Tactics Thrust. But 1 is usually enough anyway, so yeah. 1 Card Destruction. This is basically what helps us enable the deck out strategy, but again, it really depends on like what the correct combination of cards is. But still, like, even if you don't deck out your opponent, you can still wipe out a good portion of the resources if you bring this off of Thrust. And yeah, Card Destruction is pretty correct. And I know most people don't play the counter trap, but I like it because it is, it negates anything. So yeah, Dark World Punishment, and it lets you discard a card, so why not, right? All right, so now moving on to the extra deck. I decided to bump up Saryuja to 2 copies, just because it's not once per turn, and it draws you 4, and yeah, you have to put back 3 cards to the bottom of your deck, but I mean, that's fine, because like, it helps to cycle stuff back, and not only that, but it lets you special summon additional monsters, so that's always relevant. 1 Muckracker, just generic fiend support. Akashic Magician just helps us, recycle back our Ceruli, and so forth. 1 Dark. 1 Moon of the Close Heaven. I like this because like it has 2 different purposes. We do run the Underworld Goddess, yes, but like let's say if we have 2 different danger monsters, which unfortunately are not all fiends, we can just like link them off into this, and then from there I can just make Akashic Magician immediately live just by bringing out any other Dark World monster. So yeah, Moon of the Close Heaven is just a pretty good game changer for the deck. 1 ICP Masquerena. 1 Knightmare Unicorn. Pretty much another way just for me to cycle back my Ceruli, because Ceruli is searchable anyway. So as long as we have access to getting Ceruli back out, yeah, this is definitely a good way to handle it. 1 Knightmare Gryphon just to reset one of our spell and traps. Usually I always go for the counter trap if I'm forced to discard it later on, but yeah, pretty good overall, and I like Knightmare Gryphon locking my opponent. Because usually some of my end boards always end with the Knightmare Unicorn in the extra monster zone and then Gryphon on the bottom, on its bottom arrow, and yeah, you already know where that goes. 1 Underworld Goddess. For my Xyz monsters, I have a pretty neat little toolbox here. So I got 1 Time Thief Redoer. Again, the idea is just to keep taking away my opponent's resources, and Redoer definitely helps with that. 1 Coach King, it's a draw 3, and it can also help you burn your opponent for some time. 1 Hope Harbinger for spell negation. And I finally got my hands on another copy of Photon Lord, so now I have a good monster negate as well. So just help me play around Nibiru. And last but not least, 1 Grapha Dragon Overlord of Dark World. So yeah, another great disruption piece as well. All right, now moving on to the side deck. I'm playing 3 copies of Chaos Hunter. Now you might be thinking like, why am I on this? This is actually to deal with Bystials, because like Bystials also threaten my deck quite a bit, because like my whole deck is primarily dark. And Chaos Hunter just makes so your opponent can't special summon or cannot just banish cards from anywhere. So yeah, that's the whole purpose behind this. Because like I don't really banish anything really, unless outside of just Allure Darkness. I mean, and funny enough, Chaos Hunter is one-sided, so it only affects the opponent, which is even better. And not to mention, she is also a fiend, so that's also pretty relevant for this deck. 3 copies of Lava Golem, just in case I need to break boards. Also fiend, funny enough. And yeah, it's pretty nice. 3 Cosmic Cyclone just to deal with back row. A new tech option I'm trying out is 2 copies of Prohibition. Usually what I call with these is either Joel and Lockbird or Nibiru, because again, those are probably like my 2 worst hand traps to deal with. And yeah, just want to make sure like I can always like resolve these and just try to draw into them as quickly as possible. 3 Eradicators, since we are on a lot of dark monsters with high defense. Calling spells is probably going to be the one you're going to want to call the most, especially because, like, against Tempai, you know, they do run a lot of, like, board-breaking spells. Against Brande, you know, they play a lot of spells in general, so, yeah, you definitely don't want them to kick off, so, yeah, Eradicator's just a crazy card overall. And, yeah, I know it's limited, but, I mean, might as well play one Skill Drain, right? Because my deck really doesn't care about Skill Drain. I can just, like, go with the big guys and just do Dark World Beatdown. So, anyway, that's all I got. So, hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.